The cold forest was thick with shadows as the janitor stumbled over gnarled roots, his breath ragged in the crisp night air. Lost and weary, he didn't expect to find anyone in these woods, least of all a figure cloaked in fine fabric, moving with a grace that seemed otherworldly. "Who's there?" he whispered, heart pounding. The figure stepped into a moonbeam, revealing a young woman with eyes that held secrets deeper than the forest itself. "I am not lost," she said softly, "but I am far from home." He looked closer, wondering if she was real, or a dream born from his desperation. As the wind rustled the leaves, he knew this chance meeting would change his fate forever. The janitor's voice caught in his throat as he asked, "Why are you here alone?" The woman's gaze softened. "I was sent to find a place where shadows hide, and truths are buried." He frowned, unsure what to believe. "You speak like royalty, yet you walk these woods like a ghost, Ike." She smiled faintly. "Titles mean little here. What matters is the heart's compass." Together they stood on the threshold between fear and hope, the janitor wondering if this strange encounter was fate or folly. As the night deepened, a distant melody floated through the trees, hinting at secrets yet to be revealed. The melody grew louder, a haunting tune carried on the breeze. The woman's eyes gleamed. "That is the call of the royal ball, where destiny awaits those brave enough to answer." The janitor's brow furrowed. "A ball? For someone like me?" She laughed gently. "Every soul is worthy when the moment comes." His heart hammered with disbelief and a spark of longing. Could this be the chance to step beyond his dusty life of cleaning halls into something magical? As shadows danced, he nodded slowly, feeling the weight of a choice that would lead him far from the forest's dark grasp into a night of glittering possibilities. As they approached the edge of the forest, the woman turned. "I am Princess Elara, though I hide my crown to walk unseen." The janitor blinked, disbelief flickering in his eyes. "A princess? Why meet me here, lost and lowly?" She replied, "Because sometimes the truest strength is found in the humblest hearts. You have a kindness no crown can buy." His cheeks flushed with a mixture of pride and confusion. The distant music swelled, beckoning them onward. "Come," Elara said. "Tonight you are invited to the royal ball, but beware, the night holds more than celebration, it holds tests." The janitor hesitated at the forest's edge, the weight of an impossible invitation pressing down on him. "Why me?" he murmured. Elara smiled warmly. "Because you see beyond masks and walls. Tonight your courage will be your finest garment." As the first notes of the ball's orchestra floated through the night, he took a deep breath, stepping forward into a world of shimmering gowns and masked faces. The janitor, once unseen, was now a guest of the realm, his heart pounding with anticipation and fear. In that moment, the woods behind them fell silent, as if holding their breath for the tale about to unfold. Inside the grand ballroom, the janitor's eyes widened at the shimmering chandeliers, casting kaleidoscopes of light on polished marble floors. Music swelled, filling the air with lively strings and woodwinds. Nobles in elaborate gowns and tailored suits twirled gracefully. Despite the splendor, he felt a knot of unease. Whispers floated around him, curious glances and quiet judgments. Elara appeared beside him, her voice calm yet firm. "Remember, appearances can deceive. Tonight is more than celebration, it is a trial." His heart thudded as masked figures approached, their smiles hiding secrets. The janitor clenched his fists, determined not to be swallowed by a world not built for him. A masked noble extended a gloved hand. "May I have this dance?" The janitor hesitated, then nodded. As they moved in rhythm, the janitor's nerves gave way to wonder. The noble's voice was smooth but laced with challenge. "You're far from your usual halls, aren't you?" The janitor replied quietly, "I am learning the language of this world." Nearby, Elara observed, her eyes sharp. The janitor felt eyes burning into his back, whispers of disbelief swirling like shadows. Yet, with every step, he discovered an unexpected grace within himself, a glimpse of a life beyond dust and duty. But beneath the glitter, secrets twisted like the shadows on the walls. In a quiet alcove, the janitor caught his breath. Elara joined him, whispering, "Beware those who smile too easily. Some hide venom beneath silk." He nodded, eyes scanning the crowd. Suddenly a cloaked figure approached, voice low and mocking. "A janitor at a royal ball? How quaint!" The janitor's cheeks burned, but he held his ground. Elara stepped forward. "He is here by choice, stronger than you know." The figure vanished into the crowd, leaving a chill. The janitor realized that acceptance here was a fragile illusion. Every smile masked a dagger, every gesture a test. But within this tension, a spark of defiance grew fierce and bright. As midnight approached, the music softened, and the grand doors swung open. The king appeared, his gaze sweeping the room with quiet authority. He stopped abruptly upon seeing the janitor. Murmurs erupted. Elara stepped forward, voice steady. "This man is our guest." The king's eyes studied the janitor, then softened. "Courage does not wear finery," he declared. The janitor felt a surge of pride, but also the weight of expectations. The ball was no longer just a night of enchantment. It was a battlefield of wills and secrets. In that moment, he understood that his journey had only just begun, and the true test lay ahead. The clock struck midnight, and a hush fell over the room. A masked herald stepped forward. "Let the trials of the night commence." Torches flared to life along the walls, casting flickering shadows. The janitor glanced at Elara, her expression resolute. "You will be tested by truth, by courage, and by heart," she whispered. As the first challenge was announced, the janitor's doubts melted into determination. This was his moment to prove that even the lowliest could rise. The night promised revelation and danger, but also a chance to rewrite fate. He squared his shoulders and stepped forward, ready to face whatever lay beyond the glittering facade. The first trial was one of truth. The janitor stood before a grand mirror framed with gilded vines, its surface shimmering unnaturally. "Look and speak your truth," the herald intoned. Heart pounding, the janitor gazed into the glass. Reflected back was not the ragged man he expected, but a figure clad in regal fabrics, eyes steady and clear. "I am more than my station," he declared aloud, voice firm. The mirror rippled, confirming his words. Whispers filled the room. Doubt, awe, curiosity. Elara nodded approvingly. "Truth frees or imprisons. Choose wisely." The janitor felt a surge of courage. This was only the beginning of the transformation. The second trial tested courage. A shadowed corridor stretched before the janitor, lined with flickering torches that cast monstrous shapes on the stone walls. "Step forward, confront your fears," the herald declared. Each step echoed, the air thick with silence and menace. Suddenly shapes stirred, phantoms of doubt and failure, whispering taunts and lies. The janitor's breath hitched, but he squared his shoulders. "You have no hold on me," he whispered fiercely. The phantoms wavered, dissolving into mist. Light burst from the corridor's end, guiding him onward. Elara's voice echoed softly. "Bravery is not absence of fear, but triumph over it." The third trial was of the heart. In a lavish chamber draped with crimson velvet, the janitor faced a table bearing 3 locked boxes. A voice whispered, "Choose the box that holds your true desire." Doubt flickered in his eyes. The first box gleamed with gold but felt cold. The second was adorned with jewels yet weighed heavily. The third was plain but warm to the touch. His fingers trembled as he reached for the third. The lock clicked open, revealing a simple locket inscribed with the phrase, "Courage in kindness." Tears pricked his eyes as Elara stepped forward. "True strength lies in compassion. Never forget this." With the trials behind him, the janitor was led to the grand balcony, overlooking the castle gardens. The night was alive with stars, their light reflecting in his hopeful eyes. Elara stood beside him, voice soft. "You have passed the tests, but the final truth is the hardest, accepting yourself." He swallowed hard. "I have spent a lifetime believing I was invisible, unworthy." She smiled gently. "Tonight, you are seen, not for your clothes or title, but for your heart." As the first rays of dawn painted the sky, he realized that the royal ball was not just a dream, but a path to a new beginning where he belonged. The ball's finale approached as music swelled once more. The king re-entered the hall, raising a golden goblet. Tonight we witnessed courage, truth, and heart. The janitor has reminded us that nobility is found in actions, not bloodlines. Applause erupted, mingling with tears and smiles. The janitor, now standing taller, caught Elara's gaze. "Thank you," he whispered. She nodded. "This is only the beginning of your story." The crowd began to disperse, but the janitor knew his life was forever changed. In that glittering night, he had stepped from shadows into light, carrying the promise of a future where no one was invisible. The morning after the ball, the janitor awoke in a richly appointed chamber, the golden light streaming through tall stained glass windows. Yet his mind was restless. Elara appeared, her expression grave. "There is something you must know," she said quietly. "The ball was but a veil. Dark forces seek to undo what was set in motion tonight." His heart tightened. "Who?" he asked, voice barely a whisper. She looked toward the window. "Not all welcome your presence. Some see you as a threat to their power." The janitor realized his journey was far from over. The night's triumph was merely the calm before a storm. Elara led the janitor through winding palace corridors, their footsteps muffled by thick tapestries. "There are those who will try to silence you," she warned, "but truth cannot be hidden forever." Suddenly, a hooded figure emerged from the shadows, voice low and venomous. "You do not belong here, janitor." The janitor stood firm, voice steady despite the threat. "I belong where I choose." Elara's eyes flashed. "We will protect you, but you must be vigilant." The palace walls felt heavier, secrets lurking in every shadow. The janitor grasped his resolve tightly. This fight was no longer just for him, but for the kingdom's soul. In a secret chamber beneath the castle, Elara revealed a hidden map, etched on ancient parchment. "This shows where the threat gathers, beyond the northern woods," she explained. The janitor traced the lines with his finger, feeling the weight of the unknown. "If we don't act, the darkness will spread." She looked at him intently. "Your courage must now lead beyond the palace." The janitor's heart raced with both fear and determination. Leaving the safety of glittering halls for uncertain dangers would test him in ways the ball never did. Yet the choice was clear. Stand and fight or fade back into the shadows. As twilight settled over the castle, the janitor prepared to leave, donning a cloak gifted by Elara, embroidered with the royal crest. "You carry more than cloth," she said softly. "You carry hope." His fingers clenched the fabric as he looked back toward the grand halls, now dimmed by worry. "I will not fail." The corridors felt colder, the familiar replaced by uncertainty. With a final glance at the star-filled sky, he stepped into the night, the path ahead unknown but illuminated by newfound purpose. His simple life was gone. He was now a guardian of light in encroaching darkness. Venturing beyond the castle walls, the janitor entered the shadowed northern woods, where twisted branches clawed at the fog. Every crackle and rustle heightened his senses. "Stay close," Elara urged, her voice barely more than a breath. Suddenly, figures emerged, dark-robed emissaries whose eyes burned with malice. "You tread on forbidden ground," one hissed. The janitor squared his shoulders, cloak swirling around him. "I walk for truth and light." Steel glinted in the moonlight as a silent battle began, the forest alive with danger and resolve. The fate of the kingdom now balanced on the edge of a blade. The clash was sudden and fierce. The janitor's heart pounded as steel met steel. Under the dense canopy, his hands, once used for brooms and buckets, now gripped a sword with trembling strength. Elara fought at his side, her movements fluid and precise. "Stay focused," she urged. Dark figures swirled around them, faces hidden beneath shadows, their attacks relentless. Pain stung, but the janitor pushed forward, fueled by a fire deeper than fear. In that moment, every lesson, every trial, at the ball became a weapon. His humble courage became a beacon, cutting through the night's darkness. As the battle raged, a sharp cry pierced the chaos. Elara stumbled, clutching her side. "Elara!" the janitor shouted, rushing to her side. She smiled weakly. "Go on. This is your fight." His breath caught, torn between fear and resolve. With renewed fury, he drove back the attackers, each swing fueled by hope and desperation. The forest seemed to hold its breath as the janitor faced the leader of the dark figures, a figure cloaked in midnight with eyes like burning coals. "You think you can change fate?" the leader sneered. The janitor squared his jaw. "I already am." The janitor faced the dark leader, their swords locking with a resonant clang. "You are an intruder in a world not meant for you," the leader hissed. "Maybe," the janitor replied, sweat and dirt streaking his face, "but I fight for what is right." The duel twisted through the trees, sparks flying and breaths ragged. Each strike tested more than skill, it tested heart and will. The janitor drew strength from every memory of kindness and hope he'd carried since the ball. With a final desperate move, he disarmed the leader, who staggered back, eyes blazing with fury and disbelief. The defeated leader hissed, "This is not over." With a swirl of shadow, he vanished into the mist. The janitor dropped his sword, chest heaving. Elara's voice was soft behind him. "You have won this battle, but the war remains." He turned to her, exhaustion and relief mingling in his eyes. "Then we fight on," he said, steadying himself. Around them the forest seemed to breathe again, the threat receding for now but never gone. The janitor, once lost and unseen, now stood as a symbol of hope, a light in the gathering darkness. Back in the castle, the janitor and Elara planned their next move, poring over maps and messages. The threat was larger than they imagined, spreading like a shadow across the land. "We need allies," Elara said. "And you have won respect here," the janitor replied, "but there is still much to do." Their eyes met, a quiet promise passing between them. The road ahead was uncertain and dangerous, but they would face it together. The janitor's journey from obscurity to hero was far from over. It was only beginning, forged in trials and fueled by unyielding hope. The grand castle stirred with urgency as the janitor and Princess Elara moved swiftly through the echoing halls. Courtiers whispered behind heavy velvet curtains, some with doubt, others with guarded hope. "The allies remain uncertain," Elara confided, her voice low but firm, "but your courage has cracked the walls of suspicion." The janitor nodded, feeling the weight of newfound responsibility settle on his shoulders. They entered the council chamber, a cavernous room ringed by stone pillars and stained glass windows, casting fractured light onto polished floors. A gathering of nobles, generals, and envoys awaited, eyes sharp and expectant. Taking a deep breath, the janitor stepped forward, voice steady and clear. "This is no longer a fight for titles or thrones. It is a fight for survival, for every soul in this kingdom." The murmurs quieted, replaced by a charged silence. Some faces softened with hope, others tightened with skepticism. The fragile beginnings of an alliance stirred in the air, but the true challenge had only just begun. The council erupted into heated debate, voices rising and falling like the crashing waves of a storm. A grizzled knight slammed his gauntlet on the table. "We face shadows and deception. Trust is not freely given." The janitor met the challenge, gaze unwavering. "Trust is built on action and truth. We must stand together or fall divided." Elara stepped forward, her voice calm but urgent. "The darkness spreads fast. We have little time." The room fell into heavy silence, the weight of impending war settling like a shroud. Some nobles exchanged wary glances, yet beneath the tension, the janitor sensed a flicker of hope. His journey from janitor to leader was no illusion. It was the kingdom's last chance. Here, amid the power and politics, he would fight not only with sword but with words, forging unity from uncertainty. As twilight cloaked the castle in a veil of blue, the janitor and Elara ascended to the battlements. Stars shimmered like distant fires, in the clear night sky. "Do you think they will stand with us?" he asked quietly, his voice barely above the breeze. Elara's hand rested gently on his shoulder, steady and warm. "Strength and truth will guide them, and you embody both." The wind tugged at their cloaks, carrying with it a silent vow of resilience. The janitor inhaled deeply, feeling the heavy mantle of leadership settle firmly, but not oppressively on his shoulders. No longer a mere janitor, he was now a guardian of a kingdom's fragile hope, ready to face the darkness with unwavering resolve. The vast landscape stretched below, a world waiting for dawn and salvation. Dawn broke with a rush of urgent news. Scouts had spotted enemy forces amassing near the eastern border, a dark cloud threatening to swallow the land. The janitor and Elara wasted no time, rallying soldiers and knights in the castle courtyard. The air crackled with anticipation as banners snapped sharply in the cool morning wind. Standing atop a raised platform, the janitor raised his voice, cutting through the clamor. "This is our stand. Our home, our families, our future depend on this day." Faces around him hardened with resolve, the reality of war no longer a distant threat, but an imminent storm. Elara's eyes met his, shining with fierce pride. "We fight for all who call this land home." The castle trembled with the collective heartbeat of warriors, ready to face the coming battle. The first clash of battle thundered across rolling hills shrouded in morning fog. The janitor led the charge, his sword raised high, rallying soldiers who fought with desperate courage. Arrows hissed through the air, swords clanged with brutal force, and the ground trembled beneath the stampede of horses and warriors. Every moment tested their endurance and willpower, but the janitor's steady voice rang out above the chaos. "Hold the line for the kingdom." Elara fought fiercely at his side, their bond unbreakable amidst the storm of steel and blood. As sunlight pierced the dissipating mist, the enemy faltered, breaking ranks and retreating into shadow. Victory was hard-fought and bittersweet, but the janitor knew the true war was far from over. The kingdom's fragile fate still balanced on a knife's edge. The war had worn on, but the janitor's resolve never faltered. In the quiet before the final battle, he stood alone on a hill overlooking the valley, dusk painting the sky with fiery hues. Memories of his past life flickered, dusty halls, silent footsteps unseen. "I am no longer invisible," he whispered to the wind. Elara approached silently, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Tonight, everything changes." The janitor nodded, heart heavy but fierce. As the armies gathered below, he knew the coming night would either shatter their world or forge a new dawn, one where hope was no longer a fragile dream. The final battle erupted under a stormy sky. Thunder roared as swords clashed and cries echoed through the chaos. The janitor fought with every ounce of strength, rallying his comrades amid the tumult. "Hold the line," he shouted, breath ragged but unwavering. Lightning illuminated the fierce faces around him, friends, allies, and those who had once doubted. Elara's voice rang clear beside him, "For the kingdom, for the future." Together, they pushed forward, every step a defiant stand against the encroaching darkness. The night burned with fury, the outcome hanging by a thread. In the heart of battle, the janitor faced the dark leader once more. "You cannot win," the leader hissed, eyes blazing. "Maybe not," the janitor replied, muscles burning, "but I will fight until the last breath." Their swords met in a desperate dance, sparks flying as the storm raged around them. Each strike was a battle of wills, a clash of hope against despair. The janitor drew strength from the faces of those he fought for. The kingdom, Elara, and the promise of a better future. With a final, powerful blow, he disarmed the leader, sending him sprawling into the mud. The dark leader's defeat sent a ripple through the enemy ranks. Slowly, the remaining foes began to retreat, shadows dissolving into the stormy night. The janitor stood breathless, rain mingling with sweat and tears. Elara approached, voice steady despite exhaustion. "The kingdom is safe, but the scars will remain." He nodded, knowing that peace would not come easily. We have won the battle, but the healing is just beginning. As dawn crept over the horizon, the janitor felt the weight of victory and the fragile hope of a future rebuilt, not just for kings and queens, but for all. The grand hall buzzed with applause as the janitor stood tall, no longer the unseen figure he once was, but a man transformed by trials and courage. His humble robes had been replaced with rich fabrics embroidered with the royal crest, yet his eyes held the same quiet strength. Princess Elara's voice floated softly beside him. "He'll never know I forgave him." That was the point. The janitor smiled faintly, feeling the weight of those words. "I forgave myself long ago," he replied. The crowd's cheers echoed, but inside him lingered a deeper truth. A journey from shadows to light, from invisibility to becoming a beacon of hope. Tonight was not just an ending. It was a new beginning where even the humblest heart could change a kingdom's fate forever.